Hey, pickleballers, and welcome to another episode of the PickleBros podcast. As always, thank you for your likes, comments, and subscribes, and use code PickleBros at checkout with Carbon Pickleball for 10% off. Today's discussion is going to be something that everyone is familiar with. Many of us got our pickleball start in this environment, and that would be open play. Everyone has their own thoughts on it. Including us, and some of our thoughts are a little bit more varied. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. But first, let's just move on into our obligatory DUPR check. Jesse, throw our numbers up. What are we sitting at this morning?
All right. I went from 455 to 456. Big jump up there, one hundredth of a point.
That's when the money's made.
Tim, I think you went up the same amount, right? To 481.
Yeah, last week I think I was 7.9, so I didn't take it up too drastically, but I'm still happy to be in the 4.8s for the first time.
Yeah, we won. Tim and I played at a DUPR League match and beat these guys, and so yeah, we got a little bump. And Eoin, yours is 4.59. I think you went up quite a bit, right?
Did go up quite a bit. Now, Louis and I ended up having a very competitive match that gave me 0.002 DUPR points, which was amusing given our opponents were very dangerous players. Actually took a game off of us in the 3-game series. But I will be going down a little bit because my brother and I lost last night. That match just hasn't been validated. But no, I've been the journey of tracking our DUPRs on this. I have very much enjoyed keeping up with our progress here. But we want to have a full discussion on our topic today. So DUPR check is over, and let's get right into what's your beef. Jesse, can you start us off here? Lay it on us. What's your beef?
The Durafast 40. I'm sick of pretending like this is a great ball. A lot of the high-level players here in town love it, and I understand when it comes out of the bag and it's brand new like this one. It does hit very hard. It's got a lot of pop, and it's fun to play with. But we played with it earlier this week, Tim, and after you do one or two putaways, that ball is warped. It bounces funny. It wobbles in the air, and the ball also costs over $3 each, so that's twice as much as a Franklin X. It's not durable. I don't know why somebody thought it was a good idea to call it a Dura. So I'm going to stick with Franklin X's from now on. I'm going to stop pretending that this is the best ball out there.
Jesse, that's so good. And I know we've talked about, and sorry, I want to respond. I know we're doing our what's our beefs, but I actually want to respond to that. I know we've talked about environmental factors before, altitude, humidity, temperatures. Why do you think, in your opinion, the pros prefer that ball as reported? Is it because in Colorado the Dura is just a bad ball? Do you think low humidity it's better? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think advanced players like it because it hits harder. It's a little harder to handle than a softer ball. So I can understand that appeal, but the pros are probably Ben Johns is probably getting hundreds of these every week for free. So he could swap them out every game, no problem. Mm-hmm. I think they also like it because the top tournaments like PPA use the Durafast. And, but for the rest of us that actually have to pay for these balls, if you're using one or two per session, that adds up.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I have a beef, and I wasn't quite sure what my beef was going to be this week until last evening, when I was playing my DUPR match with my brother, and weather rolled in mid-match, and we ended up forfeiting in the final game. We went to 3 games, and we had created, there's a quite a big gap. Our opponents had a substantial lead on us, and it was enough that we did not think it was overcomable. The way we were playing, the way they were playing, and then we just had a thunderstorm roll in, kind of out of the blue. It's been so wet in Colorado. it's really been disruptive to the summer pickleball scene. But we just decided I couldn't get to the line in time, and this was only 2 or 3 rallies that we quickly decided, hey, we're not going to win this match. One of the guys on the other side was a bit older, and he was really having trouble very quickly with his footwork, and we're just like, they earned this, and it was games of 21 too. It wasn't like sacrificing 11-7 loss. I think it was 18-4. Like, it was a really bad, and we just were like, we're done. We're not going to let anyone get hurt. And our opponents let us know it was a very classy move from their perspective. That was good sportsmanship, which we appreciated that response. But yeah, when inclement weather just changes on you, when we started, it was perfection. And then 45 minutes later, we've got heavy rain making the court slick. So that's my beef.
What is your beef, that there's weather? I mean, everybody has the same conditions, Ian.
My beef is when weather changes in your play session, right? You start nice weather, and then the acts of God just decide to sabotage you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's a really lame beef, because there's always conditions. There's always, wind, or it's hot, or it's cold.
Everybody, soap, all right?
Yeah, I'm giving that beef like a D+ or a C- at best.
Oh my gosh. All right, listeners. Why don't you guys email me some beef so I can actually bring some heat next time? Tim, what's your stolp, Tim?
Well, I will say this. I was you were streaming that match over Marco Polo, and I was struck that, this match is being played outside. I mean, here we are almost in August, and to give you an idea just how horrible the weather has been all summer, I was surprised to see a match even attempted to play outside. So that does tell you just how bad it's been. But still, yeah, it's a bad beef. That's a bad beef. Please email Ian your beef so that he can get some better ideas.
These are my supposed friends, everybody.
And hey, your friends tell you the truth, right? And Jesse, I totally agree with you about the Dura. I enjoyed the first couple of hits with the Dura, and then that's it. Like, I do this routine before I serve where I bounce it a couple of times. There was a point yesterday, or that day that we were playing with the Duras, that I couldn't even get the bounce to come straight up to me. So it took like 3 minutes to even serve. But yeah, I totally agree with you, and they're way too expensive. But my beef is, so your team is involved in a dink rally. You're not seeing too many balls, and so you're seeing your partner get all these opportunities, and you want them to attack a certain ball, so we can get going. And they're just content to keep the dinking game going, and it just kind of you kind of get all excited for the next one to be sped up, and it never gets sped up, and you kind of get lulled to sleep, and then boom, the other team attacks it right in your face. It's very specific beef, but it's a beef that I've encountered at times. And I was talking to a buddy of ours yesterday who's experiencing the exact same thing from his standpoint. And I just started nodding and like, So guys, attack those balls for the benefit of your partner.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, because I'm often the one doing the dinking, and we're often counseled, by high level players. Well, you have to be patient, don't attack just because you can, wait for the right ball, blah, blah, blah. But I hadn't really considered how it's affecting my partner. And there are people like you, Tim, that don't like being iced out. And if they're going for a long period of time, it's hard for them to engage in the game. And so it is something I'm becoming more mindful of, is being overly patient.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, my beef might have been lame, but everyone, if you play with Tim, you'll become his beef. All right.
Yes,
guys.
and I need the material, so come play with me.
Yes. All right, open play. We were actually quite excited when we decided that this is what we're going to talk about. But Tim, I think you made an interesting clarification in prep about open play, like clarifying. Do you mind honing in on that before we get going?
Yeah, sure. So typically when we play, the PickleBros play and the PickleBros bros play, we usually reserve courts. So there's no spontaneity. There's no surprises there. We know exactly who's showing up. So I was thinking about open play as just being this play where you just show up at a park, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Yes, there's going to be people at the park, but you can still show up with your guys and stick together as a foursome. Like that's still an option when you show up at a public court. That's not what we're talking about with open play. Open play is literally being open to playing with whoever shows up at the same time you do, and putting your paddle in the paddle queue, and just taking your chances with whose paddle your paddle happens to be next to, and you don't know who you're going to be playing with. That is open play. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, rolling the dice, flying solo, just seeing what happens. I thought that's an important clarification to make. So, Jesse, I want you to kick us off. Do you go to open play? How often? If you don't, why not? And if you do, why? Just kind of break us in here.
So when I was starting, when I was maybe about a few months into my pickleball journey, open play was a hugely important thing for me. I didn't have PickleBros back then. So if I wanted to play pickleball, that meant going to one of our parks and paddling up and playing with whoever was there. And I absolutely loved it. But I do it less and less. And at this point, I would say I do it maybe, I'll go with my wife, maybe once a month or two. By myself, almost never. I think it's helpful to think about why we enjoy playing pickleball. So for some people, maybe it's meeting new people, maybe it's just spending time outdoors on a beautiful day, or maybe it's teaching newbies how to play the game. And those are all things, that I enjoy a little bit. But what I really derive satisfaction from is playing intense pickleball with people who are roughly my ability, maybe a little better or a little worse. Before I got into pickleball, I was really into the Japanese language. I studied Japanese very intensely. And from time to time, I had the opportunity to meet a Japanese person, like a native speaker. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to practice my Japanese with this person. And it's going to be so much fun for both of us because I'll be practicing and, they'll get to correct me and it'll be cool for them too. And somewhere along the line, somebody told me, you know what? It's not fun for them. Like your Japanese is not very good and you're not able to express interesting thoughts because you're so limited in what you can say. And it's really not fun for them. It's kind of a drag hearing your awful Japanese. And I realized that that's true. And I think pickleball is kind of the same. Like when you're a 4-5 or you're approaching 5-0 and you're playing with a 2-5, it's not that fun. It's a nice thing to do, but it's not that fun. So I made one of my charts.
Yeah, so Jesse chart.
Let's see if I can bring this up here. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
So this is after thorough research, of course. Enjoyment at open play as a function of the player's skill level. So you're 2.5, you're out there, you can't really get your serves in, you sometimes can't get your returns in, but you don't really know that you're not a good player, so you're still having fun. And then as you progress, it gets funner and funner. And I think 3-5 is sort of the sweet spot for open play. I mean, I loved open play when I was a 3-5. I could go and just pick pretty much anybody to play with, and it would be super fun, super competitive. But then as you get to 4-0, it's like, you realize like people are staying back at the baseline sometimes. They're not really dinking. They're not resetting the ball. And as you get to 4-5, you realize people aren't really hitting the ball to you. And so it gets less and less enjoyable.
Wow, that was fantastic.
Well, PickleBros deliver high quality research for our viewers and listeners.
Oh man.
So, so at this point, like if I go with my wife, like my wife and I, we're about a 4-0 when we're when we're together, and so we can still get good games going. If it's just me, I'm probably going to be one of the top players. It's going to be hard to find a good game. There are exceptions. Like I've been to open play in Surprise, Arizona, Naples, Florida, Delray Beach, Florida, and definitely there was plenty of competition there. So that was super fun. But at our in our smaller community, it's not as much fun. So I'd really rather play with the bros in the morning at Lifetime.
Wow, that was awesome, Jess. And looking at that chart, I think it's eminently accurate.
Well, of course,
right?
No, I'll have to look at it again. I wasn't able to study it hard enough. So I don't question its accuracy, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I fully agreed with it, and then as I transposed myself onto that, I felt it was quite accurate for me, especially in my journey, my development. When my wife and I played together, we're a 3-0, 3-5 mixed team. I'm like, that's why we still have fun going to open play. But yeah, I don't go to open play myself anymore, just because, as you said, like I don't like getting anti-targeted. I get frustrated with the mistakes that we all took for granted, like, or we just didn't know that we were doing. But I find a lot of value in open play, and I'm going to be very warm on it because I'm an emotional dude, and for me, open play is an emotional experience. Kind of the group itself. It's not about for me going in and being competitive. I like to play with my wife, and at the level I'm at, it tends to be the only environment that we can actually play. And kind of have some fun, because if we're being competitive, then I'm really trying to win. And if we're playing at my level, it's just too fast for her. And then if we're playing down at her level, it's not fair to our opponents to have me on the court. So open play ends up being a really nice outlet for us, because of the divide in our ability. But I love open play because that's like many people, that's where I got my start. I remember open play at Villa Sport here in Colorado Springs. 3 days a week, we would show up, and you didn't know who was going to be there. You knew who generally came, right? This was my home court at the time, and we played so much. You knew who was a regular there, but you didn't know if they were going to show up that day, if the people you liked more, if you're going to meet new people. And I was that new guy, and I was so welcomed. And I remember people who I owe so much to, like Len Shepard, Klaus Schwartz, Dale Hart. These were the guys who literally taught me the game. They taught me not just what a drop was, but why you did it. And the amount of times that Len Shepard would hit a forehand up the line and beat me, and I was just like, oh, I have to protect that. It was a joke that he and I had when I was learning the game. And he's like, I got you again. You weren't watching your alley, And so my reflection from becoming a 3-0 to a 3-5 that first year was so much fun. It was the relationships built. That's what developed the love for pickleball, in and of itself. Were those open play sessions. So that's where I got my start, and I have such a great affinity for it. I love seeing those people now when I go to open plays now and I run into them. Yes, we all know, in terms of my relationship with those people, we know that I've left them behind. I've gotten very good. I've really dedicated and put in a lot of hard work. And a lot of those players are a bit more casual than I am. But I just love showing up and seeing them and playing and having those memories, and rekindling those relationships, because those are guys I don't see that much anymore, because I'm doing this. I'm playing competitive ball with you guys, and we're doing the podcast, and I am trying to climb up to that 5-0 level. And so it is definitely a relationship endeavor mostly, but I'm such a big advocate for open play in getting your start and in maintaining some elements of pickleball that keep us all here, keep us all around. Tim, I know that you will probably have a slightly different vibe about open play than me. So go, why don't you get into it?
Well, so when this topic came up, we were talking about it and trying to figure out where we where we landed on our open play takes, and I was initially pretty negative, as you might expect. That's kind of my bit. But as I started to reminisce about my own experience with open play, and like you guys, it's where I got my start. It's where a lot of people get their starts. I could not deny the charms of open play, as I recall them, and I'm not about to come out here and savage open play as a thing. I think there's something very unique about our sport and how you're introduced to it that it's different from other sports because of open play. I think it's because of open play. Because I don't know if there are people whose job it is to be at the courts for open play and have a big smile on their face and be super welcoming, but there always seems to be people there like that. Like that's everybody's experience when they talk about how they first got started playing. They always mention the atmosphere just being welcoming and just easy, and everyone's so nice, and it's such a community, and oh, this is so great, and vibrant, and all those things that we loved about open play. So I would encourage anyone, I suppose no one's really listening to this who doesn't already play pickleball, but if you don't play pickleball, get involved in some open play for sure. That said, now I'm going to be myself. I don't do it anymore because it's kind of like, so my kids go to a K through 12 school. Open play would be like just random. You're in a classroom with kindergartners, 5th graders, 11th graders, 8th graders. No one's on the same page. Luckily, they're smarter than that, and they group everyone into their education level, their appropriate level. And I think that's just kind of what you start to gravitate to the more you play pickleball, is you just want to play with, you want to be on your level because it's more stimulating. You get to learn more. You're challenged more. I mean, it really is like adult learning, you know. As you get older, you want to talk things through because your brain's developed a little bit differently. And it's kind of like that in pickleball. Like, you want to be with people that can challenge you and bring something out of you that's different, you know, so you can keep growing. So open play is not good for that because it's too chaotic. It's too uncontrolled. It's that picnic atmosphere that, sure, you know, it makes you happy. It's great to see people, you know, it doesn't matter what their level is. It's great to just interact with people and talk to them and share in their love of the game. But at some point, the selfish version of you kind of takes over, and you just want to get better. You want to bring out the best version of your own game and the best version of other people's games too. And what's so interesting is when you play at that open play scene and it's so unpredictable. Like for me, as hard as I try, I cannot play well. It's too unpredictable. I have no idea what kind of ball I'm about to see. And as hard as I try, because I'm not trying to be a show off. I'm not trying to be out there like not taking it seriously, but there really is something about the play that tends to permeate open play that does not agree with my game and does not bring out anything in my game that makes me feel good about myself. And so what ends up happening is I end up being an impediment to the joys of open play because I end up being the curmudgeon version of myself because I don't enjoy the unpredictability, not just of the scene as a whole, but of the point after point play of it. It's hard to predict what you're going to get. You don't know who you're going to be sharing the court with. You don't know what their level of athleticism is going to be. You don't know if they know anything about dropping. Maybe they just started and all they do is bang, which they think they're really good at. I used to think I was really good at it when I really wasn't. I mean, that stuff, like, we've all been there. It's kind of the same journey for everybody when they first start playing, right? So it's, on one hand, you know, it's great to be a part of that. Maybe you can be a mentor You can help explain to them, like somebody explained to you, like Len explained to you, Ian, no, you got to watch that line, stuff like that. That helped you. That's why open play is absolutely a necessity when you're first starting out. Like there really is something great about open play when you're first starting out. But when you're on that super sophisticated chart that Jesse showed, and you're on the slope going downward into the 4-5 and 5-0, you really need something different. That doesn't mean that you can never show up at open play, because this game is really all about the people in some way. And it's great to stay associated with those people, but you at least need to mix in some more serious and controlled and dedicated play with people that know what they're doing, who have advanced to those levels, that can challenge you and you can challenge them and you can grow together.
Yeah, Tim, I mean, you said you've got the negative takes, but there's not much wrong with what you just said. Like, I think there's so much truth behind it. And it was very well said. And I just got to compliment you both on your analogies. The Japanese language analogy and then the classroom analogy were absolutely spot on.
Oh, let me jump in about the Japanese thing really quick. So
Yeah.
I had the privilege of being out stationed in Tokyo for 3 years as part of my military journey. And Jesse, let me just say, to back you up, I was stopped all the time on the streets of Shibuya by Japanese people that wanted to practice their English. So it's okay. I was never annoyed. I was happy to talk English with them. So I think it's possible that they weren't as annoyed as you were led to believe they were.
Well, I
with
once
you practicing your Japanese.
Yeah, I once took a flight. I was in Hawaii from one island to another, and as I always did, whenever I had downtime, I studied Japanese. I had my flashcards, I had my book, and as the flight ended and we were about to disembark, I can't remember what brought this to my attention, but I realized that the person next to me was Japanese, and he didn't say a word, the whole flight until like the last minute or two, because he knew he was going to be stuck being my teacher, unpaid teacher for the whole flight if he had spoken up.
Oh, man. Well, you guys heard it from Tim there first. He says it's appropriate to bother people who are more expert than you. So all you Frios, that's an open invite from Tim to find him on the court, and he will
Free coaching.
Free coaching. But it's funny when it comes to open
Have
play,
fun waking up at 5 a.m., everybody.
right? There does tend to be like the court dad or the guy in charge, or sort of like, the unelected mayor of how things are done at the open play courts. And upon my reflections, like I've never been that guy. I've always been kind of the bouncer for that guy, kind of the enforcer. But also, Tim, you were discussing kind of how for you open play is not enjoyable. It's kind of this negative experience, point after point, it kind of spirals. Do you guys have any like negative experiences from open play sessions? I know I've had my very typical tropish pickleball arguments. That was out. No, it wasn't. Why are you just hitting it to my wife, not to me? Like when I was still learning the culture of pickleball, but I never had anything kind of egregious or anything very unpalatable occur. Do you guys have anything?
The worst for me was there was a total newbie who wanted to play in with a more advanced group, and we wanted to do the right thing and invited him into play, and we played a couple games with him, and then we wanted to selfishly play together, like we wanted to have a higher level game, and there was just no nice way of telling this guy, we'd prefer if you mix in with some other people at this point. And I felt so bad, but that was difficult. That's always difficult.
Interesting. My question was from my perspective, which was I'm always the problem. I'm always the one, having negative issues with other people. But I never considered, you gotta kind of exclude a guy from the rotation. Tim, do you find value in playing with random people like that? Is it whether it's open play, whether it's your regular rotations? I mean, a bit of a pivot here. Is there any value in random players getting into your mix? you enjoy it? I should say.
Not
Do you
on the
enjoy
regular,
playing it?
not on the regular for sure, but I mean, occasionally, if the opportunity presents itself, I think it's great to jump in with some new people. I mean, as long as that's the exception, like I just, I really want to control the level of play that I play at. But I mean, there was a time recently that I had a singles match for the league, and we finished, and there were a couple of guys playing on court one, and I'm like, oh, let's play some doubles. Like stuff like that is awesome because you get to meet new people, and they get to see what your game is like and you them. Generally, though, so you asked about negative experiences at open play. So I did get the opportunity to play. So I've done some open play on location in Newport Beach and Utah within the last year or so. And those are really the only times I end up doing open play is when I'm out of town. And in both cases, so it's so funny. Like you find that public court, you go when you can go, and you round the corner and look at the queue, the paddle queue, and see that it's like 18 paddles long, and there's only 3 courts being used because one of the court has a lesson going on with 2 people, and then you can automatically spot the guys that are trying to rig the system and stay together and manipulate the paddle order. And it's just you and, in my case, it was me, my sister, my brother-in-law, and brother. And we're just trying to get on. And we don't have that much time because everyone else on vacation with us is waiting for us to get back. But this is what we're dealing with because we don't have a membership anywhere. We have to go wherever there are pickleball courts, and we're at the mercy of the regulars who show up there all the time. What are they doing? Why are they playing at this time? And why do they like this with 18 paddles deep? Like,
What happened to 5 a.m.?
This is why it's worth it to wake up at 5 a.m. and play. So you get to play. Like, we're not there for the paddle queue, are we? Because that's kind of the main event, as far as I can see. It's let's show up and put our paddles up and see who has the nicest paddle or something. Like it almost
18 deep.
It almost seems like that's the game. Yeah,
Well,
it was 18 deep.
Lifetime, is great, but let's just acknowledge that not everybody can afford to be a member of Lifetime or the other private club here, Springs Pickleball. So, for a lot of people, especially younger people who maybe, they're having a hard time with their making ends meet, it's open play is their only option.
Indeed.
Okay, Jesse, thanks for that dose of
it is true. Well,
of guilt.
And we're sort of discussing kind of all the intricacies of what the dynamics that create open play. Sometimes you get the Silver Sneakers members in there, and sometimes you have the guys like us who are like, no matter what it costs, we're getting our memberships, we're buying our paddles, we're taking care of our body, we're eating right, we're getting the shoes, like it's an investment for us, not just our workout plan. Like it's a little bit more than that. And then there's
maybe that goes into what I was talking about earlier about how we're just in a different phase of our pickleball lives, so it almost doesn't make sense to show up at these open play scenarios when we're not even the same type of player. It's just it's just different.
Yeah, indeed. I actually wanted to mention while you were talking about paddling up, one of our big local scene, 16 court scene, MVP, has a couple racks now. And I don't like it actually. They've put up several different paddle up racks, which doesn't make sense to me because there were paddles up on one and then on the other, and it's like who's first. So that was strange. But we actually had an issue yesterday with the paddling up because Zane and I were playing our league match against Justin and Dirk, and when we had arrived, there were 4 open courts. Like it was pretty busy, but there were some open courts. We play our first game to 21, and I realized right as we end, someone's kind of putting paddles up. So I'm like, guys, let's go, kick it in. So then we started our second game, and we're like calling the score quietly because it's 15-9 or whatever the score was. And so we're being a little subtle there. And then it really starts to get busy. And then it's like, 2 or 3 sections of 4 paddles deep. And I'm starting to feel real guilty because we're at peak time where people show up. It's nice weather. we're playing a league match, so we don't want to leave the court, and we're going up 21 points. And then I noticed that people, and they knew who I was at least, or maybe that's a bit arrogant. They could tell our game was high level, so a lot of people ended up watching our game. And so we had some spectators, and I could tell that they were wondering and questioning why we were going for so long. And then we had one guy say, "Hey, I'm challenging into this court." In the middle of our game, he's like, "I'm challenging you guys." And I didn't know what he was talking about. Was he mad at us? Did he just want to play a good game? And we ended up staying on our court because when that game ended, there was no one in the queue. So then we started our next game. But it was really like paddle ups can be difficult. There's an entire culture behind how to run it. Do you have challenge systems? Do you have just get in the queue and next up? Are you holding people accountable if they're staying on too long? I'm actually I'm a big curmudgeon with being fair to people, to the culture, to the community when it comes to the paddle ups. And for the first time in my life that I can really think of, I was the great offender yesterday, and so I didn't enjoy that. And that's why I'm kind of outing myself. Anyone who listens to this and saw me yesterday, I apologize. Yeah, paddling up is just. Do you have any thoughts on paddling up?
Yeah, I don't know if it's posted or not, if there's official rules, but the custom certainly is to play games to 11 at open play at our parks here in Colorado Springs. So I think a better way to have handled that would be to play till the first player reaches 11 and then to withdraw from the court and paddle up and then finish your game.
Yeah, upon reflection, I fully agree with you. But interesting enough, Banning Lewis explicitly has its signs on the fence that say we come on a first come, first serve basis. Try to take no more than an hour.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen that in Surprise as well. I played with this guy. I was waiting to play with this guy, and he announced that he was not going to leave the court after his game, and he cited some rule that said he could stay there for an hour. And I was a little upset, but I guess that's the rule at some places.
I gotta believe that whoever established that rule has no idea about pickleball, because that is not the thing.
Because a normal game to 11 can take anywhere from 11 to 17, 20 minutes.
Yes.
And then, but if you're going for an hour, it's like that is a long time to sit there with paddles up. And kind of speaking of open play weirdness, seeing people who are playing singles at open play. Tim, have you come across that recently?
I only came across it when our buddy Sean was talking about it. He was trying to get a court with some people, and he showed up to JVP where they have the 4 courts, and all 4 courts were taken by singles players. And I just like, I get it. Like, I like singles. I play singles. I play singles for the league. I play in singles tournaments sometimes. I love singles. And yet I feel like, and again, Jesse, to your point, not everybody has options or wants to utilize options. But I just feel like that's a bad look for open play scenarios at public parks. Like, one of the great things about pickleball is how economical it is, how it can service all these people in smaller spaces than on tennis courts. But if you're just going to make it tennis, then just go play tennis. I don't know. It's very hypocritical because I do enjoy singles, and if you're trying to play singles and you don't have a membership somewhere, you go to the park. So I don't know what the better idea is there. I would just be annoyed, especially maybe there should be a rule posted, like no more than 2 courts used for singles or 1 court used for singles. Because then, like, imagine what that paddle queue must have looked like for people that were there.
It makes it twice as long. Like, objective, it makes it twice as long.
Right. So, yeah, like I said, I don't know what the alternative would be. I guess just make more courts, like turn more tennis courts into pickleball courts. But especially over there at JVP. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I don't know if I personally have a problem with it. I guess if it's super busy, it's a little tone deaf to play singles. But some people want to play singles it's okay with me.
See, I'm gonna agree with both of you because I agree with Jesse. Like, hey, if that's the workout you want, if you don't, if you have limited options to play, and singles is your gig, go play singles. But we all know that singles is a vastly inferior version of pickleball. It is not the way the Lord intended pickleball to be played.
It's not even that controversial to say that.
It's so bad. I'm actually okay at singles. Like I don't know what would you Tim? Am I probably a 4 or 5 plus still in singles?
You're upper echelon in Colorado Springs for sure.
Oh, it hurts so bad, and I don't like it.
Oh,
So
it's unpleasant.
Yes, it's unpleasant. So when I watch people playing singles, I'm like, why would you do that to yourself at open play when you've got options to play doubles?
It's funny. It's the exact argument I use for tennis players. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? There's pickleball.
Yeah,
I mean, singles pickleball is basically tennis. Like, it's the same argument, but yet I still play singles pickleball. So
indeed. So when it comes to open play, we've got the show up and play. We've got and take your four to the court and just paddle up. But as we just kind of mentioned, challenge courts are something that we do not have, to my knowledge, in Colorado Springs when it comes to open play sessions. Jesse, do you have any thoughts on maybe instituting that, or how would you begin to have that conversation? Because I think of all the open play domains, that's the best way to run an open play session.
I'm a big advocate of challenge courts. I've seen them in Las Vegas at their main facility there. A quick story: when I first went to Monument Valley Park, that's our major facility in Colorado Springs, I didn't know anyone, and I saw a long queue of paddles, and I put my paddle in line, and one by one, the people would go to play when the court opened up, and then it came to my turn, and I had one other guy who was willing to play with me. He was a newbie as well, and so it was just the two of us, and we wanted to play doubles. I didn't even know how to play singles, and so we were waiting for our turn, eager to play, and but there were just two of us. So when a court opened up, the foursome behind me, they said, well, you're next in line, but as you can see, there's only two of you. So we hope you don't mind, but we're going to just leapfrog over you and take that court because there's four of us. And then this became like the new standard. And so everybody would just leapfrog over us. It was extremely frustrating for me. And finally, somebody, a very kind person, took pity on me and said he would play with me and asked his friend. So we got a foursome, and it was super fun. But all I wanted to do was play. And I mean, I wasn't terrible. I was a solid 3-0 at that point, coming up on 3-5. I was probably equal in ability to many of the other people that were there at the time. So if there had been, say, 2 or 3 challenge courts, I could have just walked up, put my paddle in line, and been basically guaranteed a game. So I really think for newcomers who are not part of a pre-existing clique or group, there should be challenge court opportunities.
No, Tim, respond to that. Do you like the idea of the challenge court?
yeah, I do. And for some reason, whenever I'm out of town doing these open play scenarios, there's usually a challenge court. There was one in Newport Beach. There's usually one in Utah. However, like, as the new guy that has no idea what's going on, for some reason I find myself hesitant to joining that queue. I have no idea why. I mean, I should be joining those queues, but it just seems like there are the guys who are pushy and manipulative on those queues, especially in those queues, especially. And it's like, I'll just play with my family over here on the regular court. I'm not trying to mix in with the super advanced players. It's not really appropriate. It's not why I'm here. I guess that's why, is because I'm there to play with my family, and they're quite good. We're just trying to share a court with the 4 of us and not mix in with the other advanced players. But no, I think it's a great idea to have challenge courts for that reason, and that might be the loophole. I mean, we're talking about how why open play isn't the best idea for advanced players. Well, if there's an advanced court, then it's a good idea for advanced players. So I haven't even looked into that, but if they had challenge courts around here, like I don't know which places do challenge courts, but
none. And that's what I kind of wanted to say is
literally none.
Yeah,
None.
my pickleball experience has been very limited to Colorado Springs. I actually have not. I've played in Utah, but in a tournament, and then sort of our own recreational games that we put together in Utah. So I haven't been to pickleball much outside Colorado, here in the Springs, and challenge courts are something I've never actually gotten to experience. I think I love the idea, even though
It's
I can't.
a great
speak,
idea.
Yeah, I can't speak firsthand, but it's like, all right, you've got say 10 courts, but that one court, if you want to have your competitive match, go line up, and if 7 teams are in front of you, they're looking for the same thing. That's fine. If you don't want that, just go mix in, go play on the empty courts, do your own thing. But again, I've never actually gotten to experience a challenge court because obviously, I would run the challenge court with Tim. But I think we should have them. I think it would solve a lot of sort of the confusing cultural stuff. Like yesterday when I got to the courts early, there was a guy just standing around. And I was standing around, but I was watching people. My game wasn't for half an hour. I was just going to slow roll it. And he was like, hey, do you want to hit a round? And I was like, sure. But he had to be brave enough to come ask me. And then we warmed up, and then we played some singles. And he was very new. He was like a very solid 3-0. And so, but that was the snare we were in, right? Like he didn't know how to mix in with the rest of the courts. He didn't have any options. But if there's a challenge court, he can at least go get involved. So I don't know what the first steps are to even push that in our community. But I think, and maybe we go to the local association and try and see what their take is on it, because they do have a lot of push for good and evil. But I think that it's such a good way to get both elements at open play. You get your competitive play, and then you can go get those guys who are just learning the game.
Well, it's interesting. They had that in Augusta too. The more I think about it, they had challenge court systems. What we ran into there was they couldn't get the best players in the area to show up still for the advanced courts or for the challenge courts. So what you had in the challenge courts were guys that were right around 4-0. So you still need the participation of the best players in order for that to really be a good payoff. But I mean, I feel like we would have it around here. I feel like there are enough good players around here.
You don't need to have the top players on those courts. It's just anybody that wants to play against challengers. So, when I was coming up and I was a 3-0, yeah, I would have played against 5-0s if that was the only opportunity given to me. But I would have been even happier playing against a 3-0 or a 3-5.
But
I just wanted to play.
Yeah, but I think the institution of the challenge court is a surefire way for someone who's getting freezed out.
Exactly.
To get in. Whether you're looking for a more competitive game or you're getting freezed out, it's a way to get involved. And even if you're out of your depth, at least you're playing a little bit. So,
right.
Guys, any closing thoughts here on open play? We've covered it's, there's the social element of it. A lot of people get their start there. It's relational building. You play with your wife. Anything that you guys want to close out with?
Well, I just want to give a shout out to the people in Naples, Florida for the open play system they've set up there. It's really phenomenal. They have a pro shop that's staffed, and you can go there. Well, you have to go there to get a bracelet, and I think you pay a small fee. And they will give you a color of bracelet corresponding to your skill level. So you have to show, this is my rating. And it's not DUPR, by the way. They use WPR and UTPR. And then you go out to the courts, and I was a 4-0. So I went to the 4-0 courts, and it was all very smooth, very easy for an outsider to play in at the appropriate skill level. They have 50-plus courts, which helps. But it was phenomenal.
Awesome. All right, pickleballers. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of the PickleBros podcast. Make sure to head out to open play today, tomorrow, or sometime this week. Mix it in. Go get in the wild. We'd love to see you guys there. I'm going to try and make an open play session this week myself as well. I was wondering whether we should say this or not, but I'm just going to put some pressure on him. Stolp is healing up very well. He has suggested there's a small chance that he could be on the podcast next week. So I'm going to throw that out there just to get his competitive juices flowing. We cannot wait for his return. And so we will see if next week we are back to our strong foursome. No longer 3 guys on the court. We'll be back to 4. So thank you guys. Follow us, subscribe, like, email, comment, all of it. We love you guys. Thank you guys. Stay safe and stay out of the kitchen.